Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learn about ancient truths and the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources that we're using for our conversation. Thanks for joining us today during season 4. This section of Mark, the King's Narrow Path, we're following Jesus and his disciples as they turn south from the region of Galilee toward Jerusalem. Each step of the way, Jesus reveals himself through his words and work, bringing his followers ever closer to understanding his identity and his mission. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Good to be here.
How are you? Good?
Doing great.
What's special about today, Danielle?
Well, what's special about today is we're realizing how much we as a staff rely on the internet.
Yep.
And it's insane.
And the answer is?
Too much.
Not doing well.
Well, it's hard. I mean, we like to leverage technology, but it's like it can like shut us down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Easily.
And luckily we can record this, but we can't do anything with what we record until we have
go
the
somewhere
internet.
else.
Hopefully the world's not ending today,
Yeah.
is my thought.
Yeah. Well, as we're recording it, we're pretty close to the election, so it's possible.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah. When will this air? This might air on
Oh, yeah.
that week.
So if this doesn't air, the world ended. Jesus came back, and
Oh, man.
hopefully we made it.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see each other again. If we won't, thus today's topic.
You know you guys' fruits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Love you
Okay.
guys.
So
See ya.
It was fun regardless.
it was. So Pastor Derek, he titled his sermon really oddly, I'll be honest, Jesus and the Bills Mafia.
Let's go Bills.
I
I didn't know
know.
anything about any of this stuff, obviously.
Hey. I'm not really a
Hey,
Bills fan.
hey, hey. What's
Well,
that?
that's what the Bills, that's
Oh.
the song.
But I didn't. I
Let's
had
go
no idea.
Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a thing.
You're like from up in there, so you
Yeah.
would know.
I made a commitment, though, this season
Yeah.
to watch every Bills game.
Did you? How's it going?
Why Bills, though?
You doing it?
Cause,
That's your...
That's his original, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to choose one, because I'm from
Makes
Buffalo,
sense.
that's
Did
the one I
not connect
chose.
that very well.
Yeah.
I think
That's
I might
true.
have shared this before, but my dad growing up, our household was like no Bills, no Steelers, no Browns.
Wow.
Because my
Bills
dad's
or
kind of a
Steelers.
contrarian. So we've always been
What is
Kansas
he,
City Chiefs. No, Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh.
So now it's like he's mad.
Wow.
Now
Yeah.
he's like, well, now what are we supposed to do, Dad? Well, I can't like anything
So-
anybody else likes. Now what? Taylor Swift likes us. Now what are we supposed to
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
are-
And now she's going to every sporting event.
do? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Which is
change your team.
hilarious.
Change your team.
I know. Speaking of sporting events,
Okay.
and we talked about like this Bills crushing tables thing or whatever.
I do not know
What
this.
have you guys been to like seen any weird sporting stuff or have sporting event stories?
So I don't think I have a weird one.
Hi,
I just
Andrew.
think hi.
Sorry, I forgot to say
Oh
your
yeah,
name.
sorry.
My
I wish-
bad.
yeah,
My bad.
I'm Andrew. I don't know if I have any weird ones. I've got some cool ones.
Okay, let's hear it.
The closest story I have to the Bills. I'm a Patriots fan. So when I was in
Uh-oh.
college, I know. And I went to college in Western New York, so everybody was a Bills fan except for me and like a couple other guys. And it just happened like they were Patriots fans, so I was like, cool, we can be friends. So one of our friends invited us to Ralph Wilson for a Patriots Bills game. And I just remember that was my first NFL game.
Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Oh, so good.
Hi, Mark. No.
Classic. Yeah, it was Ralph. It was the Ralph back then. So,
I know.
Stadiums just have really nice
oh,
names.
I know.
What's
they were
going
the
on?
best, like Candlestick.
It's
and
like PNC.
Arrowhead. Yeah.
So
Yay.
stupid.
And the banks just bought it. Banks and
Yeah,
insurance
banks.
companies.
Yeah.
Insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Speaking of end of the world.
Yeah,
Anyway,
here
keep
we
going.
go.
Keep
Yeah,
going,
seriously.
keep going.
But it was fun
Steven
because
wanna
we
say
got
something?
there and we're like, it's probably 30 minutes before the game started and they were already kicking people out for being too rowdy. And I was like,
Buffalo.
this is, yeah, it was like a culture thing.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool. Like nobody was breaking tables at that point
Yeah.
because like the Mafia hadn't, but they were kicking people out.
Is
Like,
it just like a group of them, or all fans are Mafia?
Oh, like the dog pound for
For the Bills, like
That's
if
a
you're-
legit question.
If you're a fan, are you just considered part of the Mafia, or do you have? Is there some like,
I'm going to say yes, but I think there's probably
or is there like a solid
Probably
group
tiers.
while
There's
you're
probably
there?
sub-communities that would say no.
communities.
there are
But, like, if-
families within.
Yeah.
But like if you're all together and you're tailgating, do they all hang out in one part of the parking lot and everything happens in that one part?
Nah, it's just one big tailgate fest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just throwing babies everywhere. Apparently, wasn't that something about throwing babies or
Oh,
like?
like it's like yeah, not
Babies
not literally, not literally.
I didn't think think they were literally throwing. It's like the same. This is totally off subject, but it's like the same. And I think the first time I ever heard it was when you said it, when you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
You never heard that before?
No.
There's a lot that you learned on
There's
Exiles.
a lot of things that I have
Congrats,
learned.
Sarah.
And that's what instantly I thought of when he was talking about the baby on the table. And I was like, this is like the baby in the bath. Moving on.
Wow.
That's great.
Thank you, Sarah. That's your sporting story. Good.
I don't have
That was her
one.
contribution.
Yeah.
I owned a season ticket for a soccer team, and my dad and I went every
Oh, that's
Saturday.
cool.
It was like our thing.
That's
Well, every home game.
Yeah. That's
So
cool.
it's not a funny story, but it's
No, it's cool,
a nice
though. It does
Those
memory.
get rowdy,
nostalgic.
don't they?
Not our team. We weren't very good. It was a local team.
Yeah, and you got to get
Stunk.
more toward England for that
Yeah.
rowdy football stuff, right?
Yep.
Do you have one?
I do have one. Mine's kind of like a Hallmark thing, like a Hallmark movie. So one time I was visiting my cousin. She's a lawyer. She lives in California, but she was in Boston.
Oh.
And this is a sporting story, not a football story. We're staying in the same hotel as the Oakland A's, but they were playing the Red Sox. Which
Is that baseball?
Baseball, sorry, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Scottish.
yeah, that's all right. I forgot.
That's my excuse.
So Boston would be similar. Probably, it's a pretty intense sports town, right?
So that's close.
Great
Is that-
sports town.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
okay.
for example, at the event, I had a Penn State sweatshirt on because I was cold. Penn State has
was
nothing
dumb.
to do with the sport. Oh yeah,
Yeah, sweet.
I got heckled up and down, walking the whole way there and back. I'm like, good thing I didn't wear like an Oakland A's
Scary.
thing. We would have got murdered. Yeah. But so anyway, I'll make it short. Long story short, we waited for tickets. Or this is just my cousin. We were in the bar. She met one of the Oakland A's people on staff. They gave us tickets.
That's cool.
And it was a playoff game.
That's
so it was
fun.
like we weren't going unless this happened. So we went. We ended up sitting in the Red Sox area, and we were talking. I was like, I don't think we can root for the A's. They don't care about us. Who cares? I'm not going to like act. People are already mad at me
I
because I,
think
have the
that's
sweatshirt
real.
on. So we end up sitting next to these two guys, talking, whatever, chatting. Long story short, they're married and they have 4 kids. My cousin and this guy that we sat at this baseball game with.
What?
Yeah, just some rando from Boston.
So
yeah.
they met each other.
So they're married. They have like 3 kids.
I didn't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
sorry,
Did
sorry.
not
Yeah,
see
that's-
that
I thought it was
coming.
like we didn't realize we were married, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like-
sorry. Yeah. So they,
It
yeah.
was a long story.
It was a long
They,
story, real
they
short.
like fell in love at this game and
Yeah,
then
they
stayed in
literally
contact.
fell in love with the game. We did this huge like Boston
That's
bar
beautiful.
crawl thing. Didn't start beautiful, but it's fine. Yeah, and then they just got married like a year later. And now
That
they're
is
like,
so cool.
beautiful.
yeah,
And you
it
get
was
to be a part of
awesome.
that story.
I know. I love it. It's like one of my favorite stories. I usually tell it better, but we
We
don't
felt
have time.
pressure with time.
We don't have internet.
Couldn't do it
we don't
justice. We don't have internet, so let's
We're
keep it
all
moving.
off today.
We're just waiting for the internet. All right. So speaking of the internet, Pastor Derek's big idea. The true test of discipleship is not looking good on the outside; it's bearing spiritual fruit. Big statement there. I thought it was cool. He's done this before with Mark, and I think Pastor Sarah maybe has done it. Just taking the opportunity to give us like historical context, biblical context, and literary context. And this is another one of those opportunities. I thought it was cool. He brought up the sandwich again.
I've never noticed that before.
Yeah. So fig tree, temple, fig tree.
Fig tree.
Any thoughts? Like, let's just talk about where we're at. Any just general observations on the story, context, anything that jumped out to you guys?
I appreciated the breakdown because I think I took it too literally. Meaning, like, I was the person when he cursed the fig tree. I'm like, geez, like, I don't think I really ever grasped, but I guess I kind of did, but not really. So I really appreciated that he broke it down because from my standpoint, reading it, I was like, what was the big deal? Like, why were you so mad at this fig tree? Like, type of thing. But so I appreciated him breaking it all down.
Like the story behind the
Yes.
fruit or the
him,
flowers looking like
him
the fruit.
killing
Okay.
it. Like,
yeah.
and
What did the fig tree do to you, Jesus? Yeah.
that's literally me when I read it. So
I could
was
see
really
how
glad.
someone could take it that way. Like, oh wow, he was still mad from the temple.
What's his
And he
deal?
just like,
Yeah.
took down the tree. I can see how you could get
Like
there.
you could just turn that tree around, right? Like
Yeah.
you can just get fruit from it.
Yeah.
But now
Oh,
I understand
could see
the
how
context
I
of
could
it.
see you could get there.
So I did appreciate because I think this is one of the stories where you read it and it's confusing.
Okay.
And
yeah.
if you don't get backstory, it's very helpful.
Yeah, and it was helpful even in that context to hear about the flowers on the fig tree, that they look like figs. So from far
Yeah, I
away,
didn't know that
I
either.
didn't know that at all.
That
So
was
that
amazing.
it's one of those details that's in there that if you don't know that, if you don't have that little nugget of wisdom, that's super helpful. So from far away, it looks like this tree is producing good fruit, but as you get closer, you realize it's empty and it's not bearing fruit. So that little detail in there, I think, just changed the way that I read this story, and that was it was super helpful.
That's good.
Yeah, I have a deeper appreciation for trees bearing fruit because we now have peach trees and apple trees.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So for the last 2 years, we've been trying to. It's clear that these are not good trees. They're
Oh,
not
no.
bearing
They're
good
doing
fruit.
well.
Bad seeds.
No, they haven't since we moved into our house. So we've been like trimming them, taking care of them, getting them smaller so the nutrients go to the right branches and all those things. But, so when you revisit a text like this, you now have a horticultural context.
Oh,
Not that I
wow.
would call myself that, but
Excuse me.
at least I be
Wow,
trimming
la-di-da.
branches.
A budding horticulturalist. Yeah.
But our apples and our peaches, actually, there were some that were edible this year. So
Nice.
Cool.
that's a win, not all of them. But anyway, that's got nothing to do with the text.
But that's such a
No.
like cool spiritual thing. You have like the kid thing.
Yeah.
Now you have the like tree thing, the fruit thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll take some peaches if you get overloaded.
Okay.
And like how much work it has to take
Yeah.
to get the fruit to be edible. Like,
Yep.
that's cool.
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
years. It's
Yeah.
years of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's-
Oh, Danielle,
we're
let's do
going there.
this.
Yeah.
We're going there.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Sanctification, slow process, trimming
Pruning
branches.
stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going.
Now
Yeah.
now it's gonna be a whole nother aspect.
Well,
for you
even
when you
like
go out there.
sorry, but like, wow.
This is what happens when we have we don't have any notes.
We have the
in front
most
of us.
technology we've ever had on this table.
All the
Also, by the
laptops
way,
are closed.
The pruning thing, it obviously spiritual, but like also just the idea that like if you're spending like all your energy in all these different places and you're not able to focus on like what God wants you to focus on, that's another like kind of metaphor for because the tree's just trying to do too much.
it's just
yeah.
But it can't do it on its own either.
No.
Right.
That's the thing. Left to its own devices,
Yeah.
it overgrew because it wasn't trimmed.
Yeah, so there's a reason that God was like, well, let's not make these like geckos where you cut off their tail and it comes back. Like a human has
I
to
didn't
like.
expect you to jump to that.
I went
but-
to geckos. Yeah,
I was processing
we're thinking
it. I
about
was
getting
like,
a lizard.
Are you?
Oh, that's a big decision.
Do
And by
it.
we, I mean Dave and Dax were thinking about getting a lizard.
Get a bearded dragon. It's like a
He
cat.
really wants one. He really wants one. But I think our cat will eat it. Anyway.
I don't know. They might be best friends.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they'd probably be best friends.
They probably would. I love bearded dragons.
Is your cat territorial?
Nah.
No, you'll be
Yeah,
fine.
He's kind of like a dog.
He doesn't
but,
really
like,
care about anything,
cute.
does he? He's really
No.
easygoing.
Yeah.
He might be like, oh, look, a lizard. I'm
This
here for
episode's
it.
not going to air, is it?
It definitely is. It definitely is.
If the last two aired, this one's
If
airing.
anyone has a bearded dragon, please write us and tell us if she should get it or not.
Wow.
They last a long time. They do
They do.
live.
All right, speaking
Okay.
of bearded dragons, 3 lessons from this story. Lesson number 1, sometimes it's okay to get angry. Thoughts?
Oh gosh.
Oh, boy.
We have to be very careful with this one, don't we?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
Because it cannot be able. I got angry, but it's okay sometimes. Like you can't do that.
Oh, that's what I was going to. No, I'm just kidding. No. No, I think one of the things Derek said in a message a while ago that I really resonated with was that our anger should spur us towards ministry.
Yes.
Like our anger should actually reveal a place in our heart that drives us to reach into that space or that injustice or whatever that
To
imbalance
solve.
is to solve that problem that makes me so angry. So one of the things we did in one of our pastors' lunches a little while ago is I just posed the question, like, what makes you angry? What are the things that like make you angry that fuels your desire to be in ministry?
Yeah, that's good.
And I think that's just a good question for us to keep at the forefront all the time. You know, whether you're in ministry or not, whether you work at a church or not, what in your family, what makes you angry when, you know, something happens to your kids, to your spouse, to your friends, and why? And do the deep work in saying, analyze that anger. Why does it make you angry? What is it? Just about me? Is it just some sort of selfish thing or is it a deeper injustice that I can actually be an agent of change and speak into that situation or circumstance? So, anger, I think, is a really useful tool in understanding the way that God's uniquely wired us to step into places where darkness and injustice and sin live, and then he offers us light to bring into those spaces. It's a good diagnostic tool. It's the way that we respond in our anger that
That's
tends
bad.
to tip the
I think in my mind, anger and hate can come together very quickly. Like anger can lead to something hateful very quickly if you are not careful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah. And I think I've heard this. I don't know what's actually. That's probably. I don't know.
Can
it's
you
true.
separate those emotions though?
Anger
and hate? Oh, I don't.
Lots of work, right?
I think you can.
Intentional.
Yeah, I would actually say no. I think hate for something drives your anger, but it's what am I responding to? Like, so I hate that sin.
Disdain,
I hate that injustice.
Okay.
You know, I hate that.
But don't be hateful with your anger.
Correct. Don't let hate drive your response.
There it is.
Let anger.
So it could
motivate
be,
your action.
Yeah, it could be an emotion, but it shouldn't be an action. It shouldn't be a verb, right?
Well, that's an interesting way
Oh.
to say it. Yeah.
So I would even go. Yeah, maybe that's because I think it does fuel your action. You said motivation for action.
Right. It should. Yeah. I get what you're saying, but not a negative action.
But you're not
Correct.
Yes.
I should always be looking to redeem or reconcile or restore something out of my anger rather than adding to whatever thing is bubbling up in me,
And
producing that anger.
For someone so anger is a big part of my story. I had
Yes.
a lot of anger, believe it or not. But
Rageaholic.
That's a little laugh.
there's
given
a
away.
big there's a
Maniacal.
big part of me that none of you would have been exposed to before. So anger always led me. It was never a emotion that ever did anything. It never led me anywhere good. I was never
Gotcha.
able to hold on to it. I was never able to control that emotion. I just went with it, and it was something that really had to be, I had to really focus on it. He had to do a lot of work in me. And I even have moments where it will come out and it's just this, like, it's a very difficult place to be when you're on the other side of it. You're like, ugh, I've just worked so hard to get past that person. And when she comes out every now and then, I think the anger can really help me with a lot of things, but there's this intentionality that I have to be very careful when it does come out. I can do a lot of really good things with it, but I could also go south very quickly. So it's a lot of work, but I could do a lot of good things with it.
Yeah,
if it does come up.
I think that's great, Sarah, because I think that's something I've wrestled with in my life as well. It's just anger producing in me something that and I think of it as like my in the moment response to whatever that situation is that's making me angry. It, for a long time, was not appropriate. It was the wrong response. Would probably push me into depression. But the weird thing is, in the moment, it feels therapeutic.
And justifiable.
In the moment, yeah,
Totally.
Yes. It helps me, but it doesn't. It doesn't
But it makes me feel
solve
like,
anything.
no.
It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't produce any good in me. It just numbs the situation, or
It almost gives you like a half-life.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's powerful, but it's giving you
exactly,
because you have to deal with it later.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I have probably the opposite relationship with anger, in that I would identify people who have slipped into anger as emotionally irrelevant in that point, in that moment.
Because you can't.
This is something that Nicole and I
can't.
would always talk about,
Like,
because
they're not
she's
reasonable.
Italian, so she's not actually angry sometimes. She's just like
Fired
animated.
up.
Just
Yeah,
Italian.
fired up.
And I would early on in our marriage, I'm not talking right now, because once you, and I always did this as a pastor, once you slip into that state, there's nothing beneficial that we're going to gain from. So I would literally stop conversations.
It's like a toddler in a tantrum. It's partially true.
It's partially true. I think there was error in my ways as well, because I think there's a passivity there and a shutting off that I was prone to at times. So I wasn't actually even engaging that person at all until they calmed down, which wasn't actually helpful in them calming down at all.
No.
But that's been my so since not being a lead pastor, and I think, part of it, my dad was always, I don't know how far I want to go with
Well, I
this.
was going to
My
say,
dad
are you
was-
protecting? Is it a protection thing?
No, because my dad was always pretty calm. My mom was pretty calm. anger didn't really dictate our house. Scottish, everybody's fine, everybody's okay. So we didn't really address or deal with emotions. So I think that was my way of sort of handling it with people. Like, there's no sense in entertaining this because it's not actually beneficial.
You just come to America and everyone's screaming all the time.
We're angry all the time.
Yeah.
But when I was no longer a lead pastor, I started to experience anger in a way because the lead pastor title held you accountable. So where at times you may have entered into anger, you don't because you really can't because people are watching you. But now nobody was watching me, and I found myself like, whoa, like what just happened? Like I was such an unfamiliar emotion to me. I'd seen people get angry, but I didn't even know how to navigate that emotion.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm in my 30s at this point.
Wow.
I'm like, what is going on here? It was just I've had a really interesting relationship with that particular emotion because I chalked it off as irrelevant and not useful at all.
Oh, that's good.
To now experience it and having to find some sort of relationship with it in a way that's beneficial.
And being around anyone that's angry is extremely uncomfortable. Like it's not, I mean, I think it's rightfully so. Our first reaction is like, I want out of here. Like this isn't nothing good's going to happen. And I think the better we know someone, we see their anger coming before they probably, or you know what I mean? And so we're like, nope, we're out because it's uncomfortable. We don't want to deal with it. So when you get angry, do you get real quiet?
Yeah, it'd probably start that way. I mean, if I'm exploding, it's been simmering for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So
a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm similar.
I was going to ask.
And it's not
what you guys do.
It's not pretty at all. It can be real ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our
The simmering.
I do that too. I let things simmer because I don't want to get into it, and I kind of avoid until it balls up into something that's it just explodes, and then it's never, in those moments I'm never saying or doing anything that is
Right.
usually worth anything.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like in
everything
that
that just
moment,
happened. I'm just
like,
validating the irrelevance of my emotion right now. There's nothing beneficial for
nothing's going on that's good. Yeah. But it's funny too because I think one of the frustrating things, that even Addie and I have found. Addie's my wife. I don't think I saw it.
No, I don't think. Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
It's just we'll put it in the show notes. I think we have show notes. We don't have show notes on this one. Yeah, never mind. Good luck finding them.
There's no internet.
We can't find them anyway.
Yeah.
Now I'm losing
I'm
my
sorry.
No, that's all right. No, I was just gonna say like that has not been beneficial because I will ball things up and then it'll all come out. But again, I want to talk about like that therapeutic thing, and then it's like I've got it all out. Now I'm over it, and now I've projected that anger and bad attitude and all of the crap in me. I've projected it onto somebody else, and I realized that it was like my responsibility with my anger is to deal with it myself, take it to the Lord, and not to like project it onto other people. And then they're carrying. I realized that in my home, especially because when I was, I think, a younger husband and father. It was like I would project some of that onto my family and then wonder why everybody was like down in the dumps. And I'm like, probably because I put weight on you.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't appropriately deal with my anger.
Yeah.
I didn't analyze my anger. I didn't say, why are you angry right now? Yeah. I just wanted to get rid of it. So when I want to get rid of something, I'm putting it unintentionally on somebody else to carry.
And you're leaving it out there for them to sweep up.
And
it's not fair for anybody. I think your spouse has a level of responsibility to help you in those moments, but it's not their sole responsibility to clean up the mess that you just vomited.
Exactly.
Sober or angry, regardless. But it's specifically, and this is, I think, a really important word for parents. It's specifically not for your kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
100%.
And so that's, we try, if we're going to argue in front of our kids, we try to also
put a smile on your face.
Make up in front of our kids.
Yeah,
okay.
So that they can see the reconciliation. I didn't always see that growing up because we're Scottish and we just, so if it is going to happen, they're going to know that mom and dad are okay on the backside of it. But it's they don't have any tools in their toolbox to know how to
process that,
handle that level of rage, if that's what we're talking to, like when you get to a place of explosion.
Because adult rage and adult anger is just so far out of their poor little realm. Like
It's
no,
only,
but,
it's
but
only
they'll
going
model
to,
it. They'll
They
model
will.
it.
They will.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to be able to process, they don't know how to.
But they,
like,
they know how to
that's-
model, but not process.
Correct.
No.
So there's nothing beneficial that you're affording them in that moment outside of imitation.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Because
yeah,
they just
exactly.
don't. They literally don't have the tools
Yeah.
No.
to.
Yep.
We call it repairing. Dave's. We recently just had one, and it went really it's weird to say it went really well, but like when you either like lose it with each other or like you maybe like overly yell at the kid for something, it's like nothing to do with what they're doing, but you're just like dysregulated
Something
and like
else
you're
is-
just like
Yeah.
stop, like why? We had one of those moments, and to see Dax is finally getting to the age where I think he's like reciprocating that, like apology, like, hey,
cool.
sorry that I
Oh.
Yeah.
lost my temper on you. I wasn't upset at you. I was upset at something else, and I
Yeah.
should not have yelled at you, like that kind of thing. He like gets that now, and you can see in his eyes like he's
That's
like
cool.
a little hurt, but then he like can talk back about it, and it's
Yeah.
That's cool.
and I never had that either growing up. It was just like, you just
Yeah.
like, I don't mean this in an abusive way, but you either just like got hit if you were doing something bad and you just move on with life, or you got screamed at and you just keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep it moving.
And then
you know?
life just moves.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, can you, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that was funny because I think that was the opposite of my story. Like my dad was pretty measured and metered, but when he
That's
got
great.
angry, he actually took the time, like, to come to me one-on-one and apologize.
Oh, that's
and it was
awesome.
that to me was the
Whoa.
model that I
Yeah.
have now tried to replicate in my home. Of like, I'm not too big that I can't go to my
Yeah, exactly.
11-year-old and say, hey, I shouldn't have responded that way, whether it was like at her or not, just
Right.
around, but Dad shouldn't have done that. I want to apologize to you, and just, and take that moment. And so to me, like, that's a perspective that I'm afforded because of the love and grace of Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is like, I have a responsibility to then go and have turn that thing that was ugly into something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Or hopefully beautiful,
Yeah.
in that moment. So, but yeah, that was a really cool perspective that I got growing up, and I don't think everybody's afforded.
No.
that. I think
Yeah.
that's
Nope.
a rare thing. So
Definitely
good.
rare.
shout out
That's
to
awesome.
Pops.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I have
his
a
name?
question. I'm just
What's his name?
curious
Yeah.
because this is about, Jesus' anger is
Yeah.
about injustice, and I actually love your point. You said, our anger should move us to action,
Mm-hmm.
positive action, maybe even cultivate a ministry out of that, or whatever it's going to look like. What are those things for you guys? I know I have one in my brain. Like it's if I were to spend my life solving a problem that makes me angry, so like maybe a justice issue in the world, what would it be for you guys? Is there an obvious one?
So I've got a couple. I don't know if I could pick one that screams louder
Sure.
than the others. One of them is I've seen a lot of church hurt. I've seen a lot of families ripped apart by the church. So to me, getting into ministry is an opportunity for me to look at those situations and remind myself of those stories of churches that we've been a part of. One in particular that was very destructive, and being able to say, wow, I can be an agent and say, no, the church, what we get to do at church on Sunday morning and as the church during the week needs to be redemptive, restorative, and beautiful. And so to see churches that abuse power, see people in churches that abuse power is one of those things that makes me angry.
Yeah.
And I could go to family ministry, men's ministry.
Yeah.
Even, my oldest daughter has, some significant learning disabilities and things like that. So being able to look at marginalized people and say they're being treated poorly, they're being treated as different, or, they're not being included. And there's some of that's just social people learning and understanding. That's not a bad thing, but to look at those people and say somebody's taking advantage of somebody like that makes me furious. So being able to take that and then say, hey, I get to be an agent of change, an agent of beauty, plug into those places and do what I can to make sure those things don't happen. Those would probably be,
That's great.
4 or 5. So.
That's really cool.
Wow.
I mean, clearly mine is the biggest one is the innocence of any kind of cruelty or neglect of any animal, especially dogs. We all know that, right?
Well, tell the people. I don't know if do the people know that?
The people
The people know it maybe through some jokes, but
Yeah.
they
Maybe
might
through
not-
some jokes.
your heart
So,
behind it. Yeah.
I've been in the rescue world for a long time. I've been in the animal world for a long time. I was actually a founder of a rescue for a while from like 2014, like 6 or 7 years after that, roughly. And then I stepped down. But when I was listening to you, this is an example of how my anger was able to, I did something positive with my anger. So I had this anger about, at the moment in 2014, any dog being chained, left outside to live their lives. Okay. So to me, it would send me, it would just send me into a very dark place. I never enjoyed winter. Like, I knew all these dogs were out there.
Specifically winter?
Yes. Because I knew they were suffering in the cold and the snow. So I just took it upon I took that anger and I did something productive with it, right? So we build this organization. The anger toward the families that were doing this to these animals, I was literally taking myself and volunteers and showing up at their house and knocking on their front door and being positive and kind to build a relationship with these homes so I could teach them how to take care of their dog
Wow.
that lived outside. So that's how it all started.
Was it genuinely a lack of knowledge for the most part on some homeowners? Or?
Yes. I want to be careful with this too, though. Mental illness.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
They
see that.
grew up in just a different lifestyle. Their family did it. Their family did it before them, etc. So it's passed on. This is just what you do. This is how dogs live. Most of the time it was just, it was very rare that it was hatefulness toward the animal. It was more just an ignorance of what they're actually exposed to, because in their minds, they think they're fine.
Wow.
So we would find out about these homes and I would show up, and don't get me wrong, like, you're looking at the situation and it angers you.
Yeah.
And it's not okay, and it's hurting me and it's making me crazy. But not that I was suppressing the anger, I was just able to navigate it into a different space. And then we would build relationships with the homes, and we would come on off the property and teach them. And
Wow.
That's amazing.
yeah, so that was, for
good.
me,
Yeah.
the injustice to anything innocent is very difficult for me. That gets me going.
Well, and that's such a great story of doing that. Is like
Yeah,
taking my anger
right?
and using it for a really good
But also
purpose.
too, like, all the volunteers, those volunteers were also there because they were also angry about
Yeah.
the same thing. And we were all like doing something productive with that anger. So I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
that's super cool.
Thanks, guys.
Look at you. Look at you. Man,
Breaking it down.
tell you what.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, for me, my brain immediately. So I resonate with the church health, and I love that. I could spend the rest of my life ensuring that churches are healthy, networking in such a way. Pastoral loneliness would be another one for me.
good.
Yeah.
Just because having experienced that, it's such a lonely, dark place. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of pastors fall, I mean, there's multiple reasons, but I think
Isolation.
loneliness is probably isolation is one of the contributing factors.
Yeah.
That then is the foundation that other things are built upon.
For
So
sure.
if we can eradicate loneliness and they can actually feel like they have a friend, because most lead pastors don't feel like they have friends or even can have friends. But the one at the top of the list for me is child trafficking.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I've never, I don't know if I will ever have the opportunity, because I know that both worlds can't exist. I can't do church health, pastoral health, and that. Like, I would be all in, but I don't even think in this stage of life, it's something. So maybe at a later age, stage of life. But I would love to commit a part of my life to rescuing these innocent,
that's great,
people
Steve.
who are.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm at a place, even as I talk about it, when I talk about it, like, I think the anger would not lead to good actions, honestly.
Yeah.
There's probably work that God needs to do in me. When you think about just the purest evil of the perpetrators, and I mean, what they're doing is intentional.
Because once you step into that space and you step into that bubble, there is no going back. Like, you're never the same. Like, your life may change later, but those things will stick with you.
Yeah.
And so you're right. You have to be fully prepared and ready.
Yeah.
Because when you step into the other side, like I said, that bubble is gone. You can't.
Yeah.
You cannot go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said
So
the
you gotta
same
be
for
ready.
you?
Well, I was going to say that, and I was, to be 100% honest, I'm like, I'm not going to say this out loud because I'm not, same thing. Like, I'm not at a place to do much more than donate to things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like, I heard it was just last week, I think someone was saying like, and I'm not saying this because of our church, I'm just saying, it was just another light bulb for me. He was saying, like, you know, how many pastors could stand on a pulpit today and say, like, if active, like, slavery, like it was going on today, and they'd be like, it's cool, like, keep doing it. There's a generation of pastors that did that when slavery was happening. And now we just have, like, this generation of pastors that's, like, silent. And there's, like, 100 more times people being sold into, like, either sex slavery, child labor, than slavery in the United States ever was.
Yeah.
And so, and there's, like, tons of statistics and stuff, but, like, I can only, like, research and donate right now. So I didn't want to speak to it, but, like, it's heartbreaking. And I think part of what started with me was just the idea that before I started educating myself on that, was the thing that would make me angry would be, and this is not a judgmental thing, but watching people who cannot afford to or mentally take care of children have child after child after child after child. That's like the root of it for me. That's where it started. And that's how we knew, like, when we got married, we knew we would adopt. We didn't think we would only adopt, but we knew we would.
Yeah.
So that's where the heart of that was birthed. And, like, I can just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Catch me on the wrong day, and I'm, like, real fired up about it.
Yeah.
Like, in a bad way, but.
And real quick, I just want to say, because we talked about action, right?
Yeah.
It should fuel action, but I think our anger should also be a good motivator for prayer in those areas. You know, and, like, I think we probably all do that in those times when we're confronted. But that should be one of those things, like, in my prayer life, I'm asking myself, what am I angry about? Yeah. And how am I presenting that to the Lord now? So
yeah, that's great. Thanks for saying that. Another way, I didn't think this was going to be like a dissertation on anger, but we're doing great.
That's where it's supposed to go.
Angry little people up here. I think another framework that Pastor Derek gave that was that diagnostic question: does this grieve the heart of God, or is this mostly about me?
I loved that.
Those are
I loved
two
that.
very different angers, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure most people, and us included, are prone to both. Like, we're humans.
And
so.
what a great tool to have when you're in the moment.
Yeah, like, what am I?
Like,
is this about me?
Is this about me or is this about God? Like, and even then you have to be very careful, because doesn't the church get sloppy with this even? Like, well, I'm getting angry about something because this has to do with God, so I can just behave however I want to.
Oh, sure.
And you
absolutely.
cannot, like, no.
Yeah, you don't have an umbrella of Christian anger about. Yeah, I can't just. I can't just be angry at you and have this umbrella because we, like, are in this ministry together.
You got it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about fruit. Actually, let's talk about this. So he talks about the fruit of the Spirit, obviously, because this fig tree thing is, God is telling us he expects us to bear fruit. When you guys look at the fruit of the Spirit, are there ones that, like, bubble up for you that you either, we can go positive or negative, something you feel strong in, maybe one you feel strong in and one you, like, find yourself working on?
Can you list them
Yeah,
again?
sure. Love,
just for everyone.
Self-control, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, virtue, knowledge, steadfastness, godliness, brotherly affection. I know that's a lot.
It's a list. Self-control.
Self-control for you?
When you said it, I was like, oh.
And of course, that's, like, one of the top ones. It's hard, yeah.
That one resonates with me, yeah.
Patience has always resonated with me. Just being able to wait on God's timing. We've talked about a lot of that recently. Just we have a messed up relationship with time.
Yeah.
So
true.
I want something now. I want something to happen now. But trusting God in the waiting is difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always bubbled up.
That's good.
Yeah, I have a interesting relationship with, I would say, both peace and joy. I'm not content often, and it's not an easy thing for me to feel at times. It's the plague of the entrepreneurial spirit. So there's always an idea, there's always a thought, there's always something that could be done, there's always more that could be done.
Yeah.
If I have energy, why not
do it?
Yeah, why not do it? So being at peace is very difficult, and I think because often you're not at peace, you suffer from the joy that something like contentment can bring. So those would be my two.
That's good too.
That's good. Yeah, I think mine, I have a couple. I feel like every single one on this list I could be better at. That's just my personality, but for sure, patience and self-control, and they kind of go together for me to like work on.
Yeah.
But also, I think the one that I resonate with the most, or like see the most, is the faithfulness one. It's not like a toot my own horn thing, but I think I'm generally, if I say I'm gonna like commit to something or do something,
Yep. You're very
I'm gonna
dependable
be
like that. Yes.
doing that, or helping people do that, or be that in relationships or whatever. But
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I would affirm that.
oh,
I would.
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so our focus. Wait, what is this? Oh yeah, another thing that Pastor Eric talked about was just like we give people tools, right? And we give people like suggestions and our self-suggestions, like read every day, find your chair, learn how to discern God's voice, do all these things. And so often I think we can turn those things into check boxes. But
Yeah.
I guess I just want to like reinforce a word that he said is like, that is not the point. The point is what? Someone else want to put in their own words?
Faithfulness, obedience.
Yeah, like why do we put these practices into place?
It's a trick question.
No, it's not a trick question. I literally think
Don't know. Jesus?
no.
Jesus.
I-
Yeah. Getting closer.
So
yeah.
okay, don't think I'm weird. I saw this interview with Joy Duggar. So all these
Okay.
Duggar kids are like
yeah,
coming
the
out of
Duggar
their stuff.
family,
Right?
They
yeah.
sure
They're like,
are.
fig-
And their
yeah.
interviews
Oh,
are
boy.
Very good interview.
Interesting.
And she, as a married woman now in her 30s, has kids, just this year figured out that God loves her if she doesn't read her Bible every day, if she doesn't do this every day. I literally think, and this is not like,
It is 90s.
again, not a judgment, but I literally think people are like, well, I just have to do this
Yeah.
to earn something.
This is me every day.
Yeah.
This is me every single day.
Okay, yep.
And when I because this is many years coming, right? So this is something he is progressively working on with me all the time. I will, okay, for example, I'll be like, okay, well, I read my Bible, I did my time, so it's okay for me now to play on my phone or go do this. And it's almost like and I have to reroute myself, and I have to catch myself, and I have to take it to him and be like, I did it again.
Yeah.
I did it again. I'm sorry. Like, please keep working on me. I'm trying not to think this way. But you're right. It gets embedded in our brains that we have to do it so we're in good standings with him. And it's a checklist. You have to get stuff done before you can enjoy the rest of your day. You have to do it to be a good Christian. And no matter how, it takes a lot of work and patience and on his timing for him to turn you around. But that is a real thing. Because you feel shameful if like at the end of the day, you've done all these great things, but at the end of the day, you
didn't do your devotions. You forgot your devotions, Sarah.
But you know what? You had a great discussion with someone else about Christ, and you had a great prayer time in your car or whatever it was.
Gave that guy $20, but you did not do your devotions.
It's like this is like a real.
I think it's a lot of people on different
I think so.
variations,
Yes.
different scales.
Yeah, I have a really interesting relationship with this right now because I think it's, at least as a byproduct of my 90s Christianity.
Right.
I think it's been going on for a long time. But I think 90s oversimplified things are systemized and processed things. So there was easy answers for 1,000 things that didn't.
Right.
They should never have easy answers. That's my excuse.
That's a podcast right there.
I'm sticking to it. Oh,
Yeah, the
the
90s.
90s Christianity.
Yeah,
oh
man.
my
Oh,
gosh.
man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Let's
Ooh.
go. Let's go.
Now the Exiles Part 2. It's just
all
the
do.
90s edition.
The 90s edition.
So what I've been doing lately, so I'm very structured in the morning. I used to wake up at about 5:45, be awake enough to then I have a gym in my basement, so that's fun. 6 o'clock workout for about 45, 50 minutes, and then go get a shower, and then it's boys routine and stuff like that. Get the kids to school. So I've changed that, and I'm waking up now at 4:55. I know you should never see 4 on your
Never.
clock.
That's my thing. Unless you're
No.
trying to catch a plane.
But
That's honestly my life rule.
the 5 minutes
Yeah.
allows me to wake up and, get a drink of water, then sit on the couch. But I'm sitting on the couch, and I've used the focus stuff
Oh, yeah,
on the
on the
iPhone.
iPhone, yeah.
Like you can have different focuses. So at 5 o'clock every morning, I have a set of apps that only appear on my phone. And it's
Oh.
and
I
it's
didn't know you
like
could do that.
it's journaling, it's a YouVersion app, it's the Bible Project, there's Audible, there's a couple other ones.
Yeah.
But the point is, when I go to my phone, those are the only options that I have.
That's sweet.
And instead of, like what you were saying before, Sarah, instead of going, okay, I need to do this, and this before I can work out, or at some point in my day, I need to fit it all in, I'm giving myself the option to do one of them.
That's good.
So in the morning, it may be a devotion. Now, I've got different moments in my life where I'm doing deep study of the Word of God. But in those, so I could do a devotion, or I could choose to focus that time on journaling my thoughts.
Yeah,
Just I've got something inside my head I need to get out. And I'm relying in that moment and trusting on the leadership of the Holy Spirit in my life to push me to exercise one of these disciplines. And it's not like, well, you journaled, you didn't read your Bible, because most of my journaling is about what God's doing in my life anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying not to
Like legislate yourself?
or create this religious system that I have to abide by, but just give myself options. And it's been, I mean, we all go through seasons, but it's been really freeing. I've been doing this now for probably just over a month-ish with this idea. And I've loved it. I mean, the freedom from guilt has been very liberating for somebody who could, like you, enter into guilt because I didn't do enough today in my Christian walk.
And it gets dangerous because you get into a space where the joy of and the excitement of sitting down with Jesus and spending time with him gets blurred because you're trying to get something off your checklist for the day. Like, I've got to do this. And it's like, it's not about doing it. It's because you want to do it.
Yes.
And if you're not careful, one will replace the other. And then eventually when you're sitting there with him, that takes over, like the excitement of being there and the joy and him speaking to you. Yes, but it's going into that moment as not a to-do, but as I want to. And that gets tough. That can get tricky with humans.
So that's what I look at is we do meter our relationship with God sometimes on this checklist format, and I'm like, what other relationship in my life do I run off of a checklist?
That's a really good question.
Like what other and say that
That's
I'm really
a really
doing
good
well,
question.
right? Is my marriage on a
great.
checklist? My kids on a checklist? No, because and I think one of the things is
And when you try to do it,
it really works well.
No, not a good idea.
at all.
Yeah, but that's the
Retreat.
point. Is right.
Yeah.
It robs me of actually
tried.
presence
Yes.
with them because it's not about them. It's about my checklist.
Yeah.
It's about and it goes back to this idea that our checklists.
It's not
And
about
like
them,
I'm
it's
not
about
saying
you,
anybody
yeah.
if you've got a good checklist and it's working for you and
It's
you're,
not sinful
like,
to have a checklist, but
No.
not at all.
Yeah.
Don't
not
let
at
it
all.
become
But
more-
it's
yeah.
don't let it become the thing that.
Evaluate your checklist.
You
is
have
what
to be
Andrew's
careful.
saying.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. Go home and get rid of all your checklists.
Don't get rid of
Yeah.
it, but just know you've got a checklist. You're
Just
gonna
pay
be
attention if it's
Just
becoming
like
more important.
something's
Yes.
going on in
Yeah.
your heart,
Yes.
probably, right? No, but I just think it becomes for me anyway. I'll personalize it and say, when I have a checklist, it becomes about me accomplishing the checklist. And what that does, if I were to point that to another person, I would say, I've accomplished my things. What have you accomplished? So I think even take it a level further and say, if I'm just on the checklist and that's the only thing or the only time I've spent with God, and I said, well, I did my part, and he doesn't show up in the way that I want him to during that day, or I don't see. I think there's a big potential for some damage in your relationship with the Lord out of that mindset. So I've
That's
tried to back
really
away
good.
from checklists. I've tried to my schedule is, I feel like very fluid at this season in my life. So as I fit my times in with the Lord, it usually does not revolve around a certain time. I've used my commute as kind of my chair time, which has been super beneficial because I have a
nice.
longer
Talking
commute.
to Jesus in the car is a good one.
It's amazing. I'm alone. I'm
Sarah
in my
knows
little box.
nothing
I
about
can
that.
control. Yeah. But I've tried to practice it more just on a daily basis. Of if I run into a situation, if I see my kids, my kids were bouncing on the trampoline the other night, and I was standing on the porch looking at them, and then just like praising the Lord for my kids.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like that's a holy moment.
Yeah,
so,
for
checklists.
Great.
Yeah.
Good word.
Yeah, man.
That's great. Okay, so I think our Exilers question, discipleship question, should be around the fruit of the Spirit. So I'd encourage you guys, look at Galatians 5:22-23, 2 Peter 1:5-8, and either like assess, maybe do what we did. What am I strong at? What am I weak at? Or ask somebody, what do you see in me? Like when when we're together, like what do you see positively and what could I work on? And then another question, if you want to go a little bit deeper toward what we were just getting at, is like, how much of my faith is performative, or how much of it is like for show, or just checking off lists, or just, just kind of, these are not easy things to wrestle with, but it's part of it. So I'd encourage you to do that. Okay. So you can go to whoisgrace.com/Mark for the resources, and you could submit a question, which nobody ever does. Guys, what
Please.
in the world?
Please, somebody submit a question.
Submit a question.
We
or we're just gonna
love
cancel
it.
We
the
know you're
podcast.
listening.
We would do
because
it.
we see the
love
stats.
it.
Yeah, we see the stats, and you're making fun of us for stuff. So
So, make fun of us to our face.
give us a question. Come on. I think we literally have gotten like 2 questions.
Yeah.
And like,
I would
come on,
love
man.
it.
All right.
Give us some hard questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
what we want.
Yeah.
We will answer them.
Add that to your checklist.
And there you go. And it can be from like a year ago, whatever. Ask us who we're voting for. I dare you. All right. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us.
You really going to finish that?
Yes, I am. Goodbye. Thank you. See you next week.